Well, this is a video unlike anything I've ever done before. I'm going to ask the viewers, what do you think and what would you do? And there's basically three options. And I'm going to spell this scenario out for you, and then I want you to leave a comment and tell me what would you do of these three options, or if you think of a different option. Okay, so imagine you're a guy who is hunting a piece of public hunting land. It's actually timber company land, but it's open to public hunting. You've been hunted for years. Your kids hunt it. Your wife has killed a bear on this property. Your father has hunted it before you. It's a big property, several thousand acres. There's good roads on it, lots of four-wheeler trails, good habitat for deer and bear. There's wolves. It's a big piece of property, and you got a lot of history with it. And people who have hunted land like this, even though it's open to public hunting, they've hunted it for years, really for generations, and they have a connection with the land. Some people just sort of take ownership of it. I don't get the sense in this case that that's the case. It's a good family, good people. This fella, his name is Mike, and he found an absolute gold mine. He found a spot. It's incredible spot for a bait site for bears, and he's been killing bears, and his friends and his family have been killing bears off this spot for years. And it's just one of those that doesn't come along every day. It's just an incredible spot. And then all of a sudden along comes a guy who's new to the area, and he's a guide, and he's really good at finding these tremendous spots. And he finds not the exact spot where you're baiting, but the area, and he sets up a bait there. And he's only maybe 300 yards from where you're hunting. In fact, he's parking to walk into his bait where you've been parking to walk into your bait. And even though your bait's a couple hundred yards away, his is only less than about 50 yards from where the parking spot is. It's a four-wheeler trail, it's a dead-end trail, there's a turnaround spot there, and you're both parking there. Figure out by now that I'm the guide. This is a real-life scenario. I got my bait in there, and then I ran into Mike's teenage son out there who was baiting. Found out where they had a bait. It was just a few hundred yards from mine, a couple hundred yards. So his dad called me, Mike's the dad, the middle. I also met the father of Mike, who actually does the beaver trapping for the timber company on this land. So they've got a family history for many years on this land. So I had a conversation with Mike. This was last year. And I just said, spots like this don't come along every day. I learned to bear hunt in super competitive environments. Back in the 22 years ago when I first started bear hunting, the number of tags was way more. It's 4 or 5 times as many tags as there are now. And there was no limit on how many baits you could put out. Now there's a limit in Minnesota. You can only put 3 baits out per hunter, per person. So I learned to bear hunt, and bear hunted for many years in hyper competitive environment where literally every one of my baits would have another person set up within a mile or two, and sometimes even closer. And I even had situations, how can you imagine somebody coming in and just dumping a gallon of bleach on your bait? That's one situation. How about this has happened to me a couple times where I had a bait, the bears were hitting it pretty good, baited it for 2 weeks. The season is about to start. A couple days before the season, a couple of guys from the Twin Cities drive up, they see my bait, they look at how tore up the area is and how packed down it is, they look at the trails, and they go set a bait 100 yards from mine. That happened to me twice with 2 different groups of people from the Twin Cities. That's the type of intentional difficulties that I faced, and I always try to get along with people. If somebody's baiting near me, we try to work it out and so forth, but it was an annual thing where you just had conflict. You had sometimes it wasn't really conflict, but it was negotiation or whatever. So that's a lot different than Mike having this great spot out there and hardly having any competition or any other people that were setting up near him until this point. So when I discovered that his bait was not too far from mine, and he actually baited his a few days after I did, I just said, on the phone, I talked to him and said, look, I'm not going to pull out of there now. I'm not going to give up this spot. I will park back a ways if you'll park back a ways, and we'll just try to, there's plenty of bears in there. We can all kill bears out of there. It should be fine. And my wife shot a bear there, and it worked out pretty good. Now, I got to know Mike a little bit, actually. He has a tree service, and I actually had him cut a couple dead trees off my property. And got to meet him a few times. Nice guy, good family. Loves to bear hunt, loves to bow hunt. Travels to other states to bow hunt like I do for whitetails. So I sort of negotiated compromise with him, and I just said, look, you can go in there opening day. I won't hunt it opening day. I'll wait. I'll give you a couple days to hunt it. Which he did, and he was pretty easy to get along with. We hunted, I think we didn't hunt it till the third day, and then I think it was the fifth or sixth day that my wife killed her bear in there. And his son killed a really nice light colored chocolate in there. It's a beautiful colored bear last year. And this year I talked to him and I said, do you have any tags? And he said, well, I just have a friend that's got a tag for a disabled veteran. I want to take him back in there and give him a chance to shoot a bear. Well, I went ahead and baited it on opening day, and figured that I would try to work something out with him again. And we could see that he was going in there and baiting, and I was going in there and baiting. And then a few days before the season started, I called him up and I said, hey, if you want, I'll do like I did last year. I'll let you have the first day or two, and hopefully your guy will kill a bear in there, and then we won't be tripping over each other. And he said, I'm really disappointed that you put your bait in on top of me again. The thought that came to mind, which I did not say, was that my bait was in there first 2 years in a row. Now that goes back to the situation where I learned to hunt, and back to 15 to 20 years ago, when if your bait was there first, you sort of had rights. Even if other baits were really close to you, you pretty much talked it out with people, and if you were there first, they moved on. He didn't feel that way, apparently, so I just let that go. This year ended up being kind of a struggle in there, and I had a big boar that was coming in half an hour before dark consistently. I had other bears on the bait, but they were in and out of there quite a bit, and they made quite a bit of commotion, and they pretty much shut the bait down in the first few days. So, I don't like conflict. I like to get along with people. I like to work on an arrangement where we're not tripping over each other, and I don't want people mad at me. I don't want to be mad at people, and my personality is I don't want conflict. This is a marshy creek back in there. It's really good bear habitat, and it's just really, really good places to put a bait. So here's where I'm at. I want to ask you, the viewer, what would you do in this situation? Because I got to make a decision for next year what I'm going to do. And I'm going to give you 3 choices. If you come up with other ideas, then leave them in the comments below. But the choice number 1 is just keep doing what we're doing. Maybe you won't even have a tag next year, and it'll be no problem. I'll be the only one in there. That's choice number 1. If he has a tag in there and wants to take people in there, or if he draws himself or his wife or whoever, that will influence that choice. The second choice is move the bait a few hundred yards farther away. Try to find another place to access upstream or downstream on that same marshy creek system, swampy, beaver. It's ideal, okay? So that's choice number 2, is just try to get a little farther away, a few more 100 yards away, maybe a quarter mile away or something like that. Try to find an access where I can still get into the area where the bears are going to be, but just not be so close to him, and we're not tripping over each other and driving the same trails in and out and stuff like that. And the third choice is just forget it, move on, and get out of there. So those are the three choices. I want to hear what you have to say and an explanation of why you want to make those choices. And keep in mind everything that I've said as far as the dynamics of the, you know, the family connection to the land that's back in there. It's timber company land, but it's public hunting. So leave a comment below, and I'll try to read all the comments, respond to them, and that will help me influence my decision for next year. So thanks a lot for being a part of this channel. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you on the next video.